stayed up. You didn't get up again? Or?
No, no. I've never been to bed, Obviously, if something is on your chest, it feels heavy
Yes,
until you are done with it.
that's true. Well, thank you so much. We've had Hawaii this morning and then Canada. Where were you in Canada, Jennifer and Michelle? Sorry, I forgot.
Vancouver.
Vancouver,
West Coast.
West Coast, and now we're moving on to Jeddah. How good are online conferences for that, aren't they? We'll just give it a minute or so or two till we have the proper time. And I've seen Michelle and Jennifer, I see that Stephen has written a long question in the chat. While we're waiting, you can read through that, and he's also left his email address, so you can contact him directly as well if you want to. Okay, let's make start on our third session this morning. As with the other sessions, Mohammed, you will have 20 minutes to speak and then 5 minutes or so for questions. So let me welcome Mohammed Hassan Ahmed to give the next talk.
Yeah, it's my pleasure being with you guys. I'm quite upbeat, although it's midnight, but still I have managed to retain my self-esteem. And it's since the topic is so exciting and so lively that it's all about AI everywhere, It's all around, and previous speaker also had to touch upon the same thing. So I'm going to talk about how AI is, already pressed into academic domain. It hasn't left any area untouched, in fact, including assessment, and it is being adapted and world over, institution-wise. We have been using AI-led or AI-embedded or kind of online tools earlier, but now it's knee-deep into its domain. And it's quite innovative, it's quite, and it offers plenty of things with an alarming speed, and it caused a lot of misapprehensions among the users to begin with, because sometimes we're really not sure of whether the outcome is up to the mark or up to our expectation, because it gives instantaneous feedback, obviously reduces time, effort, and we don't have to do even manual grading. It can grade too many of the learners, and it can grade with loads of feedback in the form of whether it's scorecard or comments or criteria, or like the two examples, ETA's criterion and Pearson's PT academic use algorithm to evaluate writing tasks. Mostly and majorly it's being deployed in the form of, the field of writing tasks, also spoken productions, and obviously it saves much of the time of teachers who had to deal with large classrooms. And the assessment is real time, anywhere, anytime, even across the languages. It's quite convenient and accessible to the learner and the teacher at the same time, whether it's synchronic or asynchronic. AI can analyze learner responses, provide tailored feedback. That's the beauty of it. It can not only maneuver itself into giving tailored feedback based on the scores, like low achievers, high achievers, or based on the individual strengths and weakness and performance or underperformance, or like platforms like Babel and Rosetta Stones that need to be mentioned here, because they use algorithms to track learners' progress and provide personalized recommendations for further study. That's also brilliant. Like, it advises you on. Obviously, it just sets a guideline. It paves the way forward. It cannot be taken for granted. And our intervention, teacher's intervention, is obviously much sought after. And this personalized approach helps learners focus on specific areas of improvement and enhance their language skills effectively. So it's objective. It doesn't suffer from the human biases. I mean, like, sometimes we get into the our human follies, and we do suffer from our personalized preferences, and so it's quite objective across the board, across the learner's domain. It's consistent evaluation. That's one thing that it's validated. It's also reduces the pitfalls that we humans sometimes suffer, especially in the holistic kind of writing tasks, where we employ subjectivity, overall picture of the writing. So in one sense, yes, it ensures fairness, relevant assessment process. It has its own oddities that I'm going to delve deeper later. I'm going to talk more on the strength of, because anyway, it's already in the usage, and PT Academy uses is already there in this, for the speaking task, writing task, ensuring all the tasks are assessed in the real time. And so speaking and pronunciation assessment does really a wonderful job, because majority of the L2 learners, they may not have get hold of the native teachers or native speakers. Sometimes they suffer from the complex of being not the first-hand learner, first-hand information. So platforms like English Central, ELSA, Speak, use algorithms to analyze learners' pronunciation, and it tweaks. It also provides the model and also instantaneous feedback by repeated utterances on their accuracy and fluency, both. Accuracy on the lexical or mechanical, fluency where the unnatural pauses, or apart from that, progress tracking features enable learners to monitor their language development over time. So progress feature tracking is like how has the learner been doing over the time. So it gives all the kind of curves and rising and falling and stagnation in the learning, and also setting new goals and improving upon them. I mean, the idea is how to have more challenges and more of the motivation based on the part of the. So real life language simulation can be done, and in fact, I'm sometimes pleasantly surprised with the kind of real life language usage and simulative, like metaverse and all that. It creates persona, it creates all kinds of characters from the books and novels and films and all that, and you can have a real conversation with them as if they're living now. So obviously it has an advantage where it creates a virtual ambience, and no doubt, most of the content generators, content creation companies and all, they're adopting, and I'm sure they're embedding them in the usual. So it's no wonder that we have like Cambridge Pocket AI, Pocket learners, and it touches all the four faculties of like reading, writing, listening, speaking skills. All the skills are enhanced, and their assessments include tasks that require learners to not only understand, comprehend the gist, and also to expose them to authentic text that come from the maybe newspaper, magazines, or they occur in brochures or some kind of literature that's online. It also creates discussion boards, discussion sessions, threads, and they can present the ideas effectively. So this keeps the shy learners, or those who are not very motivated extrinsically or intrinsically, they shy away from the group learning or collaborative learning, and so when they come to the real world language usage in their own context, especially I'm dealing with Arab students, and most of the textbook we're dealing with, we're all imported from where it's disjointed. It doesn't have much of the relevance of the topics chosen. It doesn't really buy well with the internalization, and the students find very difficult to internalize it, even the topics chosen. Because I will give an example of, like we rarely celebrate New Year Day here, but what the topic is New Year Day celebration in China and elsewhere. This is just one example of where they don't find themselves really. So apart from accurately scoring, providing feedback, including grammar, like grammar, it can pinpoint not only the structural problem, as I said, mechanical issues, also gives the subject verb agreement, adjectives, or patterns, verb patterns, the usage of the grammar inductively, not deductively. Vocabulary, obviously, it has an access to the law corpus. This corpus in millions of, and it's at disposal with, like, it can always give the synonymous, homologous, or collocations that come handy. Pronunciation already talked about, as for intonation, the stress, the kind of repeated echoing, and the drilling. And in writing, we have coherence, those kind of thing, like when we have usage of linking words and all that. So it can adapt to learners' proficiency level, or talked about. It has certain challenges to accurate evaluation sometimes. In the case where it's not 100% validated, and there could be areas where it may be still being improved upon, because there isn't adequate research world over, and the deployment is swift. It's burgeoning, AI tools and all those. People are adopting wantonly. We don't have any choices these days. There is no policy, no framework, no actual principle guidelines. So it's left to each one of us on our own. Like in our place, we're not allowed even to think of or discuss these kinds of things. At least for now, because it's off the domain of the table too. But it's getting inroads, slowly, and because learners are using in their own, they're getting benefited as far as practicing is concerned, and some of the bright ones are utilizing them to the best of their abilities without much of our intervention. Because the best thing about this AI integration is that it can completely flip the class. You can take the class home with projects and collaborations and all those. And it's brilliant at analyzing multiple aspects of language use: written, spoken, pronunciation, intonation, and it gives a holistic assessment. And it's not demeaning or disrespecting, or sometimes we humans indulge in, we show our frustration dealing with them. We think like every learner has to be equally proficient, equally. That's never the case in any of the classroom. The mixed ability learners, they have an advantage where they can negotiate on their own, and it comes very handy with institutional deployment, where we have plenty and plenty of loads of work to be done, large number, language programs, high volume students. Like Duolingo English test, an AI-powered online language assessment tool, has been adapted by many university institutions as an alternative to traditional language proficiency test. Although initially 2 years ago I tried this Duolingo, I didn't find it really, in any way contributing to advancing learning the way we would like our students to learn in the classroom. It's so monotonous, repetitive, and it doesn't really gauge the real competence of the learners. Anyway, but those tools, the traditional, I'm talking about online tools which were not based specifically on AI integration. They were not so robust, but now the AI tools are getting more robust. That I can feel, and every time I get to use any one of them, is getting really, really all pervasive. And the challenge lies in how to adopt them to the best of our, like it's our responsibility is now like of a double-edged sword, like we have to be on guard where they can be misled, misrepresented, and so responsibly using them, developing them, maintaining fairness, transparency, accountable practices. These are the, and of course, ethical considerations. That's the whole issue that's being, debated, brushed upon world over, and UNESCO has also come up with some of the guidelines. There was a Congress, summit, AI guideline summit recently, 2 weeks ago in England, and all the tech giants are, getting to terms with these ethical considerations of how to. And we practitioners also have to be a part of it. So research on automated writing evaluation systems, as I said, e-data and criteria has demonstrated the effectiveness of providing reliable and consistent scoring and feedback on writing tasks. But it's still to the considerable extent, not necessarily 100%. Nobody can say that it's not failing, and it's unerringly perfect for all kinds of, like just the previous speaker pointed out that some of the tasks were not well framed, or were not skillfully framed. A study published in a language testing journal found a high correlation between e-data scores and human scores. That means it's coming to the parity, and it's coming close to what humans, the best minds, could come up with on TOEFL, IBT writing tasks. However, studies also highlight the need for human validation and contextual understanding. That's the idea, like we need to have our own understanding and our own guardrails. And how it's essential to consider limitations, ethical considerations with AI-based language. Limitations are many. Because personalized learning experiences, it can imperil the learner in a way we can't even conceive of. By leveraging the strengths of AI and maintaining a balanced approach, language systems can become more accurate, accessible. So the idea is accurate, that means 100% accuracy. Accessible, that means equitable, and everybody should be, beneficiary of it. across the board, across the world, across the institutional, and engaging for learners. Ongoing researches and collaboration between educators, researchers, and developers are crucial to ensure the responsible and effective use of language. I said all the stakeholders must join hands, come up with broader guidelines and paraphernalia, how to go about it, how not only to come up with, deploy, and all that. Effective usage, the idea is how effectively we can utilize the harness to the best of the. So obviously, it's evolving rapidly, and it's an invasion. I would call it's like invasion, and sometimes intrudes in the world of our teachers, our practitioners, and institutional heads, and these kind of innovations is like alarmingly rapid, and this cannot be backtracked. That's the problem. Once it's like lobbied, or it's going to explode. Explore the impact of these changes in language testing, and it's a new era has begun. So if I compare traditional and language assessment and comparing, AI-powered approaches, of course, it has lots of advantages. It has an edge, but as long as it's, it has a guardrails and we are on the back of it, we are testing it, and then only we are, rigorous testing is important. Because technology innovations such as natural language processing and machine learning in the context of language testing, their potential can transform this entire process. Entire process means they can replace us, remove us, they can put us in the background, in the back burner, essentially. So that's the problem, So there are so many challenges, but there are opportunities, and we need to identify the opportunities along with the challenges, and we can enhance assessment methods, increase accessibility altogether. We have to adapt its invasion. We have to personalize it. We have to have considerations that's paramount. Privacy, bias, and we have to remove. It has to be equitable. We need to have ethical guidelines, and also we have to see how fast it's moving and how fast is encroaching or making inroads in our domains in our academic environment. So we cannot predict for sure, but we have an idea of that this is an invasion. And this potential development, adaptive testing, multimodal assessment, cross-linguistic analysis will be much more robust, and that's what is my conclusion. It's propelled by AI and vision. Technology innovation offers exciting opportunities, no doubt. It enhances our assessment practices. It raises critical ethical considerations, and we need to have a balanced approach to leverage its outcome. And yeah, that's how I conclude my session. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your interesting presentations. I wonder whether there are any questions. You can either post them in the chat or raise your hands. Yes, Susie.
Yes, thanks for that. I'm just wondering about the critical ethical considerations that you allude to. I think it's something that, is often kind of said in policy and discourse generally, that there's ethical considerations. But at the same time, you've presented various tests and test practices in a fairly, I guess, rosy way. And I'm wondering what you think these critical ethical considerations are in sort of more specific way. So as a language testing community, what do we need to think about?
Yeah, what I really think very deeply that we, as we are the first point of introduction and deployment in the classroom, and we are in constant, direct touch with our learners and all. So we should be made a party to it, a stakeholder. And before deploying or before really I'm letting it loose among our learners, we need to test on our own for its efficacy, how far is going with the practices. And most institutions have their own practical ways of doing testing and assessment based on their own grading system. There's no universal criteria, apart from CFR and the world testing systems. Moreover, its accuracy has to be ascertained because ultimately it falls on us. The onus is on us, the educationists, the practitioners, the stakeholders, like heads of the institutions, and we need to be oriented first, need lots of training, because majority of us, we are disoriented, misapprehension, with lots of misapprehensions for now. We ourselves, we are not sure of the things. But it's happening, and it's happening in front of us, and we are simply onlookers, passive onlookers. And that's a predicament for now.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
If I can just follow up, I'd say I agree with you that we have a responsibility and that we try out things, but that's no different from any other kind of assessment practice. We've always had a responsibility in that regard. But what is it about AI what are the ethical considerations about AI that we need to take into account?
Yeah, it's much more equitable, all encompassing, like it's overgeneralized in the sense that it affects all of us at the same time, regardless of the geographical, social, like linguistic L1, L2 boundaries. It doesn't know the boundaries. We set the boundaries. We know the learner's abilities, whether mixed, whether it's, we know our prerequisites of what kind of proficiency and what skills do we need our learners to master. AI cannot decide on its own what do we want our learners to become. A world citizen, a responsible person, or just for immigration, just for immersion, just for getting a job, just for employability sake. All these things are ultimately, falling in our court. So the ball remains in our court. The only thing is that when it wanes away, some of our burnout. We're spending hundreds of hours otherwise in designing those kind of tasks and all that. So it takes away that kind of burden to begin with. But the rest of the burden is the same. And with any technological deployment, the same scenario, whether we should allow students to use the encyclopedia or internet or Google or translation or across the, like so many, they've always been wondering, whether to, have strict policy of only English. Like here we have, like L1, L2 issue, always grapple with this issue. Only English. We have been punishing them for speaking and using the L1. Now, but now we have come to realize as a generation that L1 is not a deficit at all in any situation. It's something, an added advantage. It's a brain gym. It allows us learners to think in terms of schema, activations of their prior knowledge, and they have already, loads of metacognitive input that can be utilized with L2. So there are so many issues that need to be pondered over, and that AI cannot do on its own. We can only empower AI, and it's up to us what extent we empower it.
Thank Thank you. I think we'll need to wrap up now to allow the next presenter to share their slides. Thank you so much, Mohammed, for your very engaging presentation and for staying up so late. you can go sleep now.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's indeed my pleasure being with you. I'm stopping sharing.
Thank you. And Reina, sorry, are you here? Yeah, oh yes, there you are. Hi. Do you want to try and share your slides?
No problem.
And Susie, will you share this session then?